The sky above Seoul darkened as the massive shadow passed overhead. Crystal ships, glittering like stars even in daylight, moved in perfect formation. The Draconian fleet had arrived. Lieutenant Commander Ju Park stood on the roof of the United Defense Force headquarters, watching with a mixture of fear and fascination. 6 years of studying possible alien languages hadn't prepared her for this moment. They're positioning themselves in a combat formation, General Han said, binoculars pressed to his face. No, Ju replied softly. That's not a war pattern. Look at the spacing. Before anyone could respond, the communications array crackled to life. Strange sounds, clicks, whistles, and deep rumbling tones filled the air. Everyone froze, except for Ju, who moved quickly to the console. It's language, she said, fingers flying over the keyboard. Complex, but structured. 3 days later, Ju stood in a hastily constructed meeting room. Across from her sat the first Draconian to set foot on Earth. The alien was tall, with scaled skin that shifted colors like oil on water. Its 4 eyes tracked every movement in the room. We come with knowledge. The translator in Juwoo's ear converted the alien sounds. Earth has potential. Draconians offer partnership. The world leaders sitting behind Juwoo exchanged glances. What had seemed like an invasion was apparently a diplomatic mission. The aliens offered technology, medical advances, and scientific knowledge in exchange for cultural exchange, and some mining rights on uninhabited planets in the solar system. People celebrated in the streets when the news broke. Peace, not war. Progress, not destruction. Humanity had feared the worst, but received a gift instead. Juwoo didn't join the celebrations. Something felt wrong. In her small apartment, she reviewed recordings of the meetings. The official translations were accurate enough, but there were subtleties the computer missed, small inconsistencies that bothered her. Why do they switch dialect patterns when discussing certain topics? She muttered to herself, making notes. And why the color change when we mention deep space scanning? Her supervisor had dismissed her concerns. You're overthinking it. They're aliens. They're going to be strange. But Juwoo couldn't shake the feeling. When the Draconians requested a tour of Earth's major research facilities, she noticed how they lingered at certain installations, asking pointed questions about Earth's defensive capabilities. 1 month after first contact, Juwoo received a strange assignment. She was to accompany a Draconian delegation to a facility she'd never heard of, a research center near the Mariana Trench. The submarine journey was tense. The 3 Draconians sat motionless, their scales shifting between deep blue and purple. Juwoo tried making conversation, but received only short answers. When they arrived, armed guards met them. Dr. Do-Yeon Kim, a small man with tired eyes, led them through steel corridors that descended deeper than Juwoo thought possible. "What exactly do you study here?" she asked quietly. Dr. Kim gave her a tight smile. "Oceanic anomalies." The Draconians moved with sudden interest when they entered the main laboratory. Massive equipment hummed around them. In the center stood a device unlike anything Juwoo had seen, a pillar of dark metal with shifting symbols that reminded her of Draconian writing. The lead alien approached it, scales flashing bright red. It turned to Dr. Kim, ignoring Juwoo. "This is UMBRA." Dr. Kim's face paled. "How do you know that name?" The alien didn't answer. Instead, it placed a scaled hand on the device. The symbols glowed in response. That night, Juwoo couldn't sleep. She accessed classified files using code she'd memorized during the tour. Project UMBRA, a technology beyond human understanding, discovered decades ago. Not created. Found. The next morning, she returned to headquarters to find emergency meetings in progress. The Draconian representatives were demanding access to Project UMBRA. "They say it belongs to them," General Han explained. "That it was stolen from their ancestors." "Is that true?" Juwoo asked. The general's silence was answer enough. 2 weeks later, Ju translated as Earth's leaders signed a technology-sharing agreement with the Draconians. But that night, she noticed unusual communications between the alien ships, activity that didn't match their peaceful statements. She took her evidence to Dr. Kim, who she'd stayed in contact with since the visit. "They're planning something," she insisted. Dr. Kim looked at her data and whispered, "Then we're running out of time." "For what?" Ju asked. "UMBRA isn't just technology," he said. "It's a weapon. And we've almost figured out how to use it." That night, as Ju processed this revelation, the sky above Earth lit up with the glow of the Draconian fleet preparing to move. But toward what end, departure, attack, or something else entirely, she didn't know. What she did know was that humanity's darkest secret was about to collide with an alien force that had crossed galaxies to find it. And she was caught in the middle. Ju woke to urgent messages flooding her phone. She blinked at the screen in disbelief. The Draconian fleet, all 27 massive vessels, had vanished during the night. She rushed to headquarters where chaos reigned. Military personnel ran between stations, politicians shouted into phones, and screens displayed empty space where the crystalline ships had hovered just hours before. "What happened?" she asked General Han, who looked like he hadn't slept. "They left," he said flatly. "Departed in the night. No warning, no message." "That makes no sense," Ju argued. "They were in the middle of negotiations. The cultural exchange program starts next week." The general shrugged. "Aliens are unpredictable. Maybe they got what they wanted." But Ju saw something in his eyes. He wouldn't meet her gaze. The official story came out that afternoon. Earth's governments announced that the Draconians had suddenly departed, possibly returning to their home system. "We hope for their eventual return and continued friendship," the United Nations spokesperson said. Ju didn't believe it. That night, she used her security clearance to access communications logs. Hours passed as she searched, finding nothing unusual until she tried a different approach, looking for what wasn't there. A 12-minute gap existed in all monitoring systems, exactly when the Draconians supposedly departed. Too perfect to be coincidence. She dug deeper, using skills that bordered on hacking. Finally, she found it. A heavily encrypted message sent from military command to various global facilities, including the Mariana Trench Base. The message contained only 3 words: "Shadowfall is complete." Ju needed answers. Dr. Kim wasn't answering her calls, so she traced his recent contacts. One name appeared repeatedly: Dr. Hyun Lee, another scientist at the trench facility. Finding Dr. Lee proved difficult. The woman had taken sudden personal leave the day the Draconians vanished. But Ju tracked her to a small apartment on the outskirts of Busan. When Dr. Lee opened the door, her eyes widened in fear. "You shouldn't be here." "The Draconians didn't leave on their own, did they?" Ju asked without preamble. Dr. Lee checked the hallway before pulling Ju inside. The apartment was bare except for packed bags and scattered papers. "You're running," Ju observed. "Anyone connected to UMBRA is either running or already in protective custody," Dr. Lee said, hands shaking as she made tea. "Do-Yun was taken to a secure facility yesterday." "What is Shadowfall?" Ju demanded. Dr. Lee sighed deeply. "The operation to remove the Draconian threat." "Threat?" "They came in peace. That's what they wanted us to believe." Dr. Lee pulled out a tablet and showed Ju images. Draconian ships scanning Earth's defenses, alien messages discussing Earth's weaknesses. "They were preparing for something," Dr. Lee explained. "Military command decided to act first." "By doing what exactly?" Dr. Lee's voice dropped to a whisper. "By using UMBRA to create a dimensional pocket. The entire fleet is trapped in a bubble between realities." Ju felt sick. "We attacked them. Without provocation. You saw how interested they were in UMBRA. They knew what it was because they've seen it before." Dr. Lee pulled out an old photograph showing an excavation in Antarctica. Workers surrounded a dark object partially embedded in ice. This was found in 1938. Not alien technology, it's older. We believe the Draconians were searching for it, tracking its energy signature. What is it? Ju asked, staring at the strange object in the photo. A device that manipulates spacetime. We've spent decades reverse engineering it. HFY is just the beginning of what we've developed. So humanity has possessed advanced technology for almost a century, Ju said slowly. And we used it to, what? Imprison an entire species. The decision came from the highest levels. They believed the Draconians were advanced scouts for an invasion force. Dr. Lee checked her watch nervously. I've said too much. You need to leave. Where are they? Ju pressed. Where are the Draconians now? Suspended in the pocket dimension. Not dead, just frozen in time. The military is calling it a preemptive defense measure. Ju stood, horrified. We're the aggressors here. We attacked a peaceful species. Peace was never their intention, Dr. Lee insisted. At least, that's what we were told. And you believe that? Before Dr. Lee could answer, her phone buzzed. She checked it, face paling. They know I'm talking to you. They're coming. She grabbed Juwoo's arm. Listen carefully. Find the custodians. They know the truth about HFY, about everything. The custodians? Who are they? People who've known about alien life for centuries. Find them if you want answers. Dr. Lee pushed Juwoo toward the back door. Now go, before they get here. As Juwoo hurried down the fire escape, she realized humanity's first contact with alien life wasn't first contact at all. Earth had been hiding a dark secret for longer than anyone knew, and she had accidentally stepped right into the middle of it. Juwoo hadn't gone 50 meters from Dr. Lee's apartment when black vehicles screeched to a halt at the building's entrance. She ducked behind a dumpster, heart pounding as armed men in unmarked uniforms rushed inside. 3 minutes later, they emerged with Dr. Lee, who struggled against her captors. Juwoo bit her lip to keep from calling out. She watched helplessly as they forced Dr. Lee into a vehicle and drove away. Rain began to fall as Juwoo walked quickly through back alleys, keeping her face turned from security cameras. Her military ID was now a liability. Her phone too. She dropped it into a storm drain and borrowed a stranger's to make one call. Minjin. It's Juwoo. I need help. Her college friend worked at a small electronics shop. He looked shocked when she appeared at his back door, soaking wet. They're saying you stole classified documents, he said, showing her the news alert on his computer. Her face was there, labeled as a national security threat. I didn't steal anything, she replied. But I learned something I wasn't supposed to know. Minjin gave her dry clothes, cash, and a basic phone with no tracking. What did you discover that's worth hunting you for? The truth about the Draconians, she said. They didn't leave. We trapped them. Before morning, they had created a new identity for her with forged credentials. Juwoo became Sora, a graduate student. With dyed hair and glasses, she slipped out of Seoul on a bus heading south. For 3 weeks, she moved between small towns, using internet cafes to search for information about the custodians. Nothing turned up until she tried an obscure term from Dr. Lee's notes, stellar guardians. This led to a forum discussing ancient astronomical observations. One user, Starwatcher, posted about unusual star alignments that coincided with historical events. When Juwoo sent a private message mentioning Dr. Lee, the response came quickly. Meet at Gyeongju. Bell Tower. Midnight. The ancient city was quiet when Juwoo arrived. The bell tower stood dark against the night sky. She waited, watching for followers. You're looking for us. The voice came from behind her. An older man with kind eyes emerged from the shadows. I'm Taeyong. How do I know I can trust you? Juwoo asked. You mentioned Haeun Lee. She's being held at a facility near Jeju Island. We're working to free her. He led her to a small tea shop that should have been closed. Inside, Several people gathered around tables covered with maps and documents. They fell silent when she entered. "This is Juwu Park," Taeyong announced. She witnessed Shadowfall's execution. A woman stepped forward. "I'm Suman. We've been tracking UMBRA for decades." "What are you people?" Juwu asked. "We call ourselves custodians," Taeyong explained. "For centuries, we've maintained Earth's relationships with various cosmic species." "You mean aliens have visited before?" Suman nodded. "Many times. Most visits are peaceful. Some aren't. We've worked to balance these interactions." They showed Juwu ancient manuscripts with drawings of strange craft in the sky, cave paintings depicting tall beings with non-human features, photographs from the 1800s showing unusual objects above cities. "Humanity has never been alone," Taeyong said. "But governments keep this knowledge hidden, fearing public panic." "What about the Draconians?" Juwu asked. Suman brought out a device that projected a 3D image of the UMBRA technology. "This isn't human or Draconian. It's from the architects, a species that vanished millions of years ago. They left devices throughout the galaxy." "The Draconians were searching for this technology," Taeyong continued. "Not for invasion, but because they fear what's coming." "Which is what?" "Something ancient, something that hunts advanced civilizations." Suman's voice was grave. "The Draconians came to warn us and offer alliance. And we trapped them instead," Juwu said, feeling sick. "Based on manufactured intelligence," Taeyong confirmed. "Military leaders wanted the Draconian technology without the partnership. They fabricated evidence of hostile intent." A young man burst into the room. "We've been compromised. Security forces are surrounding the area." Taeyong grabbed Juwu's arm. "We have a safe passage. Come." They rushed through a hidden door and down stone steps into an underground tunnel. Behind them, shouts and footsteps echoed. "Where does this lead?" Juwu asked, running beside Taeyong. "To an old temple. From there, we have transport to our main sanctuary." "And then what?" "Then we try to free the Draconians before it's too late." "Too late for what?" Taeyong's face was grim in the dim tunnel lights. "The dimensional pocket is unstable. If it collapses with them inside, it could tear a hole in reality itself." As they emerged from the tunnel into a moonlit garden, Juwu saw helicopters circling above. Their hunt was becoming desperate. "Why are they so determined to stop us?" she asked. "Because the truth threatens not just current power structures," Suman said, "but humanity's entire understanding of its place in the universe." They slipped into the night, fugitives with knowledge that could save two species or destroy them both. The submarine descended into darkness, carrying Juwu, Taeyong, and 3 other custodians. After freeing Dr. Lee from the facility on Jeju Island, they had planned this desperate mission to the Mariana Trench Base. The security systems identify authorized personnel by their biorhythms, Dr. Lee explained, attaching small devices to everyone's wrists. "These will mask your patterns and replace them with those of cleared scientists." Juwu stared at the approaching underwater structure. Lights glowed in the deep ocean, illuminating a complex far larger than she remembered. "It's grown," she whispered. "They've been busy," Dr. Lee replied grimly. Their submarine docked at a maintenance entrance. Using Dr. Lee's codes, they entered the facility unchallenged. Moving through service corridors, they avoided the main areas where guards patrolled. "The UMBRA device is on the lowest level," Dr. Lee said, leading them to a freight elevator. "But first, I need to show you something on level 3. The elevator doors opened onto a sterile white hallway. Through glass walls, they could see laboratories where scientists worked at strange equipment. Dr. Lee led them to a viewing area overlooking a massive chamber. Juwu gasped. Suspended in fluid-filled tanks were Draconians, or parts of them. Some tanks contained just limbs or organ systems. Others held complete bodies, connected to machines that pulsed with energy. "What are they doing to them?" Juwu asked, horrified. "Harvesting," Dr. Lee said quietly. The dimensional pocket didn't capture all the Draconians. Some were already in our facilities when Shadowfall activated. They're being used for experimentation. Taeyong's face darkened. This violates every cosmic law. It gets worse, Dr. Lee continued, leading them to a computer terminal. Her fingers flew over the keyboard, bringing up classified files. They're using Draconian DNA to enhance human subjects. The screen showed soldiers undergoing procedures, their bodies changing as alien genetic material was introduced. Their skin took on a faint scale-like quality. Their eyes developed the reflective quality of Draconian vision. Super soldiers, Taeyong said. Not just soldiers, Dr. Lee corrected. High-ranking government officials, intelligence agents, anyone deemed essential to the new world order they're planning. Which is what exactly? Ju asked. A humanity that dominates the galaxy, using stolen alien technology and biology. Dr. Lee's voice trembled. They believed the Draconians were just the beginning. They planned to capture other species using UMBRA. Alarms suddenly blared through the facility. Red lights flashed in the corridors. That's not for us, Dr. Lee said, checking the terminal. There's an emergency in the UMBRA chamber. They hurried back to the elevator and descended to the lowest level. Emergency crews rushed past them, too focused on a crisis to question their presence. The UMBRA chamber was in chaos. The massive device at its center pulsed with unstable energy. Technicians worked frantically at control stations while scientists shouted instructions. The dimensional pocket is collapsing, one scientist yelled. Energy readings are off the charts. Using the confusion as cover, Dr. Lee accessed a maintenance terminal. This is worse than I thought, she whispered to the others. When they trapped the Draconian fleet, they didn't realize what UMBRA actually does. It doesn't just create pockets in space-time. It punches holes between dimensions. What does that mean? Ju asked. It means, Taeyong said gravely, that they've created a tear in reality itself. If that pocket collapses completely, it could create a rift that would consume Earth and spread throughout our solar system, Dr. Lee finished. A holographic display showed the dimensional pocket, a swirling vortex of energy with the crystalline, Draconian ships frozen inside. But the edges of the vortex were fraying, energy leaking into normal space. They can't stabilize it, Dr. Lee said, reading the data streams. They don't understand the technology well enough. Can we free the Draconians? Ju asked. Possibly, but we'd need direct access to UMBRA's control systems. Which means going through them, Taeyong said, nodding toward the dozens of military personnel and scientists in the chamber. Ju studied the room, then pointed to a secondary control station partially hidden behind equipment. There, it's connected to the main system, but away from the crowd. As they carefully moved toward it, Ju noticed something odd about some of the military officers. Their movements were too quick, too precise. Their eyes reflected light unnaturally. Draconian enhanced, she whispered to the others, the ones with the reflective eyes. They reached the control station unseen. Dr. Lee immediately began working, her fingers dancing across the interface. I think I can reverse the containment field, but it will take time. Time we may not have, Taeyong said, pointing to the main UMBRA device. The energy pulses were intensifying, creating visible distortions in the air around it. On the monitors, the dimensional pocket contracted, then expanded violently. The Draconian ships within shifted position for the first time since their capture. They're still alive in there, Ju realized. And they're trying to escape. Or they're trying to help us, Dr. Lee suggested. Look at these energy patterns. They're deliberate. As they watched, the truth became clear. Earth's greatest threat wasn't the aliens they had imprisoned. It was the hubris of those who thought they could control powers beyond their understanding. Dr. Lee's fingers worked frantically on the control panel as energy surges from the UMBRA device shook the facility. Ju stood guard, watching for approaching security. I've linked to the global broadcast systems, Dr. Lee announced. "If we can hold this position for 3 more minutes, everything we've learned goes public." Taeyong and the other custodians had spread throughout the facility, working to stabilize the dimensional pocket using ancient knowledge passed down through their order. "They're coming," Juwu warned, spotting enhanced soldiers moving toward their position. Their eyes glowed with unnatural light. "Almost there," Dr. Lee said. 90 more seconds." The first soldier rounded the corner. Juwu stepped forward, using tactics she learned from the custodians to disable him without killing. But there were more behind him. 30 seconds, Dr. Lee called. A blast of energy scorched the wall near Juwu's head. She ducked, rolled, and came up fighting. These weren't ordinary soldiers. They moved too fast, hit too hard. Their enhanced bodies gave them advantages no normal human could match. 10 seconds. Dr. Lee counted down. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. The screens throughout the facility suddenly changed, showing the truth they had uncovered. The Draconian prisoners, the genetic experiments, the dimensional pocket holding an innocent fleet. The broadcasts reached beyond the facility, to televisions, phones, and computers worldwide. The soldiers hesitated, surprised by the images appearing everywhere. Juwu used that moment to grab Dr. Lee and run for the core of the facility where Taeyong had established a defensive position. "The pocket is destabilizing faster than we can counteract," one of the custodians reported as they arrived. "We've maybe 20 minutes before complete collapse." Above them, chaos reigned. The broadcast had reached the public. Streets filled with protesters demanding answers. Military units moved to secure key locations as governments tried to control the situation. Inside the facility, the UMBRA device pulsed with increasing intensity. Alarms blared throughout the complex. "We need to shut it down completely," Dr. Lee said. "It's the only way to prevent catastrophe." "But the Draconians," Juwu protested, "they'll be trapped forever." "Not necessarily," Taeyong said. "If we can disrupt the containment field at the exact moment we power down UMBRA, there's a chance they'll be released." They worked rapidly, preparing for their one chance. Security forces gathered outside their barricaded position, but held back, perhaps uncertain given the public exposure of the project. As they made final preparations, a technician burst into the room. "Something's happening. Sensors are detecting massive objects entering the solar system." On the monitor, dozens of crystalline ships appeared, each far larger than those in the trapped First Fleet. "The Second Draconian Fleet," Taeyong whispered. "We're too late." The new ships took position around Earth. Worldwide, weapons systems targeted them, but no one fired. The situation was too delicate, with the public now aware of what had happened to the first visitors. A message came through on all frequencies, in perfect human language. "We come for our lost brethren. Return them, or face judgment." The dimensional pocket pulsed violently as Juwu, Dr. Lee, and the custodians worked frantically to release the trapped fleet without causing a catastrophic collapse. "Now," Dr. Lee shouted, initiating their plan. The UMBRA device powered down as the containment field dissolved. For a terrible moment, energy surged uncontrolled through the facility. Then, like water rushing through a broken dam, the pocket collapsed inward before exploding outward in a non-destructive wave. On screens worldwide, people watched as the original Draconian fleet reappeared in Earth orbit, freed from their dimensional prison. 3 days later, Juwu stood in a massive hall hastily prepared for the most important diplomatic meeting in human history. Leaders from every nation faced the commanders of both Draconian fleets. The lead Draconian, towering and regal, addressed the assembled humans. "Some among you imprisoned our exploratory fleet and committed atrocities against our people. Justice demands punishment." The room fell silent. However, the commander continued, "We did not cross the stars merely to find allies. We came seeking warriors for a greater battle." Images appeared showing a darkness spreading across distant galaxies. The Void Eaters approach, an ancient enemy that consumes all life. They have awakened after eons of slumber and moved toward populated space. The Draconian turned its 4 eyes to the human delegation. Humanity now stands at a crossroads. Face our judgment for your crimes, or join us against an enemy that threatens all sentient life. Jumu watched as understanding dawned on the faces around her. Humanity wasn't alone in the universe, but neither were they the apex predator they had imagined. Their place in the cosmic hierarchy was far more precarious than anyone had realized. The choice is yours, the Draconian said, but choose quickly. The darkness does not wait. As dawn broke over Earth, humanity faced its greatest decision: accountability for its dark deeds, or redemption through joining a fight for all existence. Either way, nothing would ever be the same again. Retriclaude can make mistakes. Please double-check responses.